Okay.
An hour and a half of material. Let's go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanisha. I'm with the National Sports Media Association, and I'm also here with High Point University. Today, I'm joined by someone, by many of you guys know on the Hockey in the UNH Wildcat Radio Network, Mike Murphy. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Tanisha, great to be with you. Someone from High Point talking to someone who's at a low point. So this is kind of the yin and the yang. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. How are things right now going in Durham?
Oh, if life was any better, I'd be twins. In terms of the college cycle here at UNH, where I work, it's winding down.
Hmm.
Spring sports are not prevalent up here. We have women's lacrosse and track and field, but we're very heavy in terms of fall and winter seasons. And unfortunately, here in March, where you get excited for the basketball and hockey tournaments, our teams have all bowed out except for gymnastics. Women's gymnastics still going strong.
Okay, so around this time of year, what is it like with the UNH hockey team or the hockey program?
Sure. So hockey, for those, and I get it, it's a big sport, but niche still to a lot of people around the country. The college hockey calendar is rather long. The first games are played in early October, which means there's exhibitions in late September, and the national tournament, the national champion isn't crowned until April. So it really carries over all three sports seasons, fall, winter, and into spring. But the tournaments just began, conference tourneys, and their selection Sunday, if you will be coming up soon. UNH was knocked off, unfortunately, in a tough battle against Northeastern in the opening round. So the off season's begun for our men's and women's hockey programs.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's about to start being a little bit busy pretty soon. So hopefully it's not too crazy for you. I wanted to take it back a little bit and go into the beginning. And I wanted to ask, when did you first realize that you wanted to get into sports broadcasting?
Probably eighth grade initial, which,
Okay.
believe it or not, a long time ago. I won't go into what year that was, but I remember talking to my father because I was no longer making the team to play baseball,
Okay.
basketball, because I grew up playing sports like so many of us did, but I was very untalented.
Hmm.
And at some point, I remember I said, "What do I do?" And my father said, the people we're watching on TV, those guys talking, they do that for work. Like that's their job. And that resonated with me. And I started to research, okay, where is this person from? Where's that person from? And more often than not, whether it was Bob Costas or Marv Albert and some of the local guys, I'm seeing Syracuse University, Syracuse University. And growing up, I was a St. John's basketball fan, so Syracuse was our enemy in the old Big East.
Yeah.
But then my mindset started to switch to, okay, let me learn more about this Syracuse. By chance, we moved from my native Connecticut to Rochester, New York, right when I started high school. So Syracuse was only an hour away, and it became my focus. And I went to school there and got into the field of broadcast journalism, which I'm still to this day hard to believe it's a major. But when you go to a school like Syracuse, where there are so many talented people, being so being somebody who barely qualifies as such, it was an eye opener for me. I was immersed with people who had similar likes, similar passions, and for me, it was taken off from there. And it's been over 30 some odd years that it's still part of my life. It's not everything in my life, but it's a big part of it.
So you mentioned you're a Syracuse graduate, and also like we all know like this was very big and it has like a lot of results that come from it with their students. How did you find and work your experience and how did you help it shape your career now?
You know the phrase about imposter syndrome, where you have a job and you find it hard to believe you have that
Yeah.
job? That is real, and I experience it a lot. When you get to college, you're trying to find your way, and you look around the room, and there's 100 people who want to be the next Bob Costas and the sportscaster. And I said, "Whoa!" It was one thing when I was in high school and said, "Cool, I want to be a sportscaster." You didn't realize how competitive it would be. It's very humbling when you're a first semester freshman. Forget being the best sportscaster. I wasn't the best in the radio station. I wasn't the best in my own class. And I wasn't even the best on my own floor of my dorm. All right. Because Dion Summers, look up Neon Dion,
Oh
world
yeah.
famous, right, from Sirius XM. We lived in like three doors down. Freshman year, I said, this guy is already a professional at 18 years old. So I always felt less than. But
Hmm.
because I was surrounded by talent, it drove us all to be better. That even now, I'm humbled when I see NSMA announce the award winners and I look around all the Syracuse grads. Believe you me, Newhouse doesn't look at me the way I look at Newhouse. I'm so appreciative of the experiences there, not only in the terms of college, but the campus radio station, Z89, which for my money is the best college radio station in America, and the alumni prove it. There's Hall of Famers galore, like Dion, but and tons more, even from my class of 1995. And I see people on ESPN now who have done wonderful things. So just to be a small speck on that wall is indeed an honor for me.
Okay, so then as you started really early, because you mentioned eighth grade, but it really took off like once you went into Syracuse. What is a moment early in your career, early like in your college career that you really like decided this is for certain, this is what I wanted to do? Like I know your dad reassured you with it, but when you go into college, like you try your own experiences, you dibble and dabble in a little things, so that's when you kind of figure out what you want to work with for sure.
Yes, well, as far as my father, I love him. As we talk, today is his birthday, but
Oh, happy
like
birthday.
many like many sons and daughters, I don't always take his advice because his best advice he gave me was never live west of where you work. And I do. And why did he
Yeah.
say that? You drive into the sun both ways. So in the
Yeah.
morning, I get the sun in the way. But he did let me chase my dream. My parents were very supportive. But even freshman year, Tanisha, just to get on the radio at the campus radio station Z89 for a 90-second sportscast at 6:50 a.m. to earn that spot was one of the great accomplishments of my life. Everybody else on a Friday night, I don't know what they were doing. I was going to bed because I had to get up early and walk to the radio station and take 2 hours to read, probably very poorly, 90 seconds of copy. But I'd record that and listen to my cassette tape because that's what we used back then. And then, again, it was so, even now I get excited thinking I was selected
Hmm.
to by Jen McLean, the sports director at the time. They gave me the opportunity for Saturday mornings. I knew that I was in the right field because
Right.
it meant a lot to me to be doing that.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. As you were starting up also, were there any specific broadcasters or broadcasts that really inspired you to keep going forward?
Well, when I was in college, again, surrounded by colleagues who all we hung out together. That was our fraternity,
Mhm.
being a nerd to a good old high school football game on a Friday and hold a recorder in front of a high school kid's name to do a recap show on Saturday morning. But as far as the professional guys I watched, love Bob Costas. I mean, his voice still carries to this day. Chris Berman was popular on ESPN at the time with his gimmick. Sam Rosen, the voice of the New York Rangers, just all the guys you would watch. But when I was an intern in college, Dave Ryan, who's now still doing broadcasts and terrific nationally, he was at the local ABC affiliate in Syracuse, let me intern with him, and he was a professor at the school.
Wow.
So I saw what it was like for a TV sportscaster to
Mhm.
do his work every day and still have the time of day for an annoying kid like I was. And I always cherish that relationship to help me get better as I pursued this field.
So, as you mentioned, all these supports and all the people that you had to inspire to look up to you, you had looking up to, how did the opportunity with UNH, with the Wildcat Radio first come about?
Well, it goes back, it's a good segue because when I was graduating from Syracuse, again, I'm an outlier, Tanisha. I was engaged to be married as a senior in college. So I was a little more, my senior year was okay, I got to get ready. I'm going to have this woman actually wants to be married to me. I
Right.
better get a job. So I was looking anywhere for jobs, anywhere. And just by happenstance in the student center that had jobs posted, there was a typewritten note about a small radio station in Concord, New Hampshire. Now, I grew up in Connecticut, lived in New York and Illinois. I had never been to New Hampshire, but I immediately applied. And they actually had a phone number. And it wasn't like send into a blind HR. It was call this number. And I think it was after 5 o'clock. I didn't even think, oh, cool, time of day. Most people go home. But by complete luck, I called that phone number and the general manager of the radio station answered. That's how small this station was. His name was Dick Osborne. In addition to being the general manager of the radio station, who subsequently interviewed me, hired me, he was the voice of University of New Hampshire hockey on the radio.
Oh,
I didn't even
wow.
know college hockey existed. That's the job I have now,
Mhm.
30 plus years later. But it was dumb coincidence that we hit it off because he was a sportscaster at heart,
Right.
even though he was hiring. And so I got the job, moved up here, and he was a mentor. And the sports director of that radio station, a guy by the name of Jim Janot, well, Jim saw in me somebody who wanted to do what he did. He was the voice of UNH football, UNH basketball. A couple of years in, he started bringing me as his color commentator when his previous color commentator had moved on. And just that small sliver of opportunity at this school, all these years later, the broadcast booth in our new football stadium, I was proud to help get named after Jim Janot. He's still with us, thankfully, in his 80s, still a mentor, still a good friend. And I owe a great debt of gratitude to those two gentlemen for helping get me started.
So to piggyback off my next question, do you remember your first UNH hockey broadcast and what was that experience like for you?
I do because I was broadcasting professionally for a long time before UNH hockey. So I
Okay.
did high school sports, but it
Hmm.
was basketball. I was doing color commentary for football. I even worked in minor league baseball, the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, the Toronto Blue Jays AA affiliate. Did that for about 7 years.
Okay.
Hockey never came naturally to me, but as I was trying to get more and more opportunities in this state, and I love basketball, don't get me wrong. I'm a Syracuse guy, and I go, things are tough at the Cuse right now.
Yeah.
But college hockey, I was learning in New Hampshire was a big sport at UNH in particular. So one day, excuse me, the primary voice by now, Dick Osborne had moved on. Dan Parkhurst was the announcer at the time. Dan was so talented, he was getting some national opportunities. So there was a Sunday afternoon game at a school called St. Lawrence, which was far away from UNH, and they needed someone just to sub in. So my inclination was, I don't know how to say dump and change or throws the puck into the corner. Another vernacular made sense to me. I hadn't learned Doc Emmerich's vocabulary yet, but I said yes, please take me. And I did that first game and I struggled. Oh, was that bad? But thankfully, I had understanding management here at the school that was appreciative that I would go to St. Lawrence on a Sunday afternoon and find a way. And from there, more opportunities games, sub in here, sub in there, do a lot of women's games. And lo and behold, years later, I got the spot, the number one spot. Even though I had spent 10 plus years trying to become the voice of football or basketball, it was hockey that became the first opportunity. And now I think if anybody knows who I am, and that's debatable, they know me because of my connection with hockey.
I like that. So for fans who might not realize or fans who know you specifically, what makes hockey or calling hockey on the radio unique compared to other sports? Because you said you've done other sports and you've done mostly basketball. So what makes hockey specifically unique?
So much action, the constant, especially on the radio. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and this audience knows the difference, I think, between play-by-play TV, play-by-play radio. So play-by-play radio, you're constantly speaking. There aren't those natural gaps like in football. The play ends, there's a whistle. Color
Mhm.
commentator, jump in, give your analysis. Sometimes if there's after a whistle, then there's a chance for the commentator to say something, but there can be a long time between whistles. When you're calling a goal scorer, let's put it this way, in basketball, most of the time somebody scores, I know who scores. Hockey, I hit about 260, I think, today. Because sometimes it's a shot, there's a bunch of the pucks in the front, and everybody's
Yeah.
counting at it, and I'm looking down to see the name, and I get the name wrong, but it's fast paced, it's challenging. I love the challenge. I could always get better. Talk about imposter syndrome. I can't believe I have this job, and I really enjoy it. I love the energy and the adrenaline. When we get to an intermission break, I'm like, whoa, this is different than a 3 hour baseball game where it's gradual or football.
Hmm.
It's there is a lot going, and I end up listening to a lot of other broadcasters on Sirius XM just to see how they are much more melodious and how they go up and down. And I tend to jump out of my chair and I go, "Why am I screaming? That's not what you do." But hockey sometimes makes you do that.
Okay, so then how would you prepare for a bit like a busy week like yourself? Like each week, how do you prepare for each game?
Sure. I'm very lucky to work full time at the university in my marketing and communications role, so I know the coaching staff very well. I travel with the team when I can, so I get to be there at the film sessions right before the game, hear about breakdowns, but I'll also listen to the weekly press conference, take clips from the coach, and then read the game notes like other people do. I like when we play the same opponent back to back because memorization of names, the older I get, the Friday game, because we tend to play Friday, Saturday in college hockey, same
Hmm.
opponent most of the time, as this is a very bus centric league, a lot of schools in Boston area and north. But once you know both teams' rosters down flat, I can't stress enough to young broadcasters memorize
Yeah.
because looking down, you can miss something a lot in hockey. You know, I know our team pretty well. Oh, sorry for this. That's probably offending people. That Jets lunchbox. I didn't realize it was there, but don't
Yeah.
blame me. You know, this is my life.
You're fine.
But that's it. You prepare for it, and then you work with the color commentator to. It's a 30-minute pregame show, so you have everything. So you know, okay, for segment one we're doing this. Segment two we go through the lines. Segment three injuries. You talk to the opposing broadcaster before a game, get some nuggets from their team. We're all pretty close. I think it's a tight knit community broadcasters, and love to share with others who have that same similar passion when I was a freshman at Syracuse exists among the play-by-play announcers in college hockey.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, one of the greatest things about radio and about broadcasters in general is that you guys have to paint a picture for the listeners constantly. And how do you approach that part of the job? How do you paint a picture about what's happening currently, but also making sure you're sharing all the correct information and stats at the same time?
Yes, I love being the radio announcer. I mean, as much as this face belongs on TV, the TV broadcast, there's somebody in your ear essentially telling you, hey, don't say that until I have the graphic ready, or make sure the color commentator can say this thing. When you're play by play on the radio, you're driving, which is nice as a feeling of power, but also you're the eyes, as you said. And it's nice to be able to say it's at the near side boards, diagonal to the right wing corner, clears the line, gains this line. And remembering, throw the score and time in there occasionally. These people just jumped in. They probably don't care that you said flutter pass and then said
Mhm.
shovels the puck out. You always want to change your verbs, but it's remembering, scores 1-0, 3.5 to go in the period, and it goes on because people are in and out. I enjoy that challenge of painting the picture, skating left to right, quickly countering. Who's wearing the dark jerseys, white jerseys?
Mhm.
Right behind the bench, the fans are going crazy. It's just a feeling of, you know, some people have no idea what's going on and they're relying on me, as inaccurate as it may be to them. It's real. So that's why it's a pretty special feeling.
I really appreciate that. So, is there a call that you had to do or something that you had to broadcast on air that still sticks with you today? Like it's so memorable that you can't forget it?
Yes, 2004, gosh, that's a long time ago. So this is before I was even doing hockey. I was doing the baseball for the Fisher Cats, and this is the first year I was doing minor league baseball as the team had moved to Manchester, New Hampshire. I lucked into that job. Again, luck has almost everything to do with it. Some skill, probably not. But at the same time, the baseball playoffs were going on as college football season had started for UNH. So in the same weekend, I went from Binghamton, New York, playoff game, New Hampshire Fisher Cats and Binghamton Mets playing for the Eastern League North Division Championship. And then Fisher Cats won the game, clinched. Fisher Cats won the game, clinched the division to go to the championship finals. I then drove myself to New Jersey,
Hmm.
where UNH football was playing Rutgers. So Rutgers, now Big Ten, then Big East, UNH, small, one double A, now FCS. Well, we broadcast the game. New Hampshire beats Rutgers the same weekend that I saw a division championship, and I was driving home, and all these Rutgers fans were calling WFAN radio to commiserate because the week before Rutgers had beaten Michigan State, and they're thinking we're going to a bowl game. They lose to New Hampshire. I was there for that, and it was just to have those in back-to-back days. That's the kind of thing you want to bottle up and have because as much as we can't control results and you have to
Hmm.
make stay even to have those side by side over 20 years later still really stands out.
Right. I like that. That is actually really nice. I know that going through that firsthand must have been actually really rewarding. So in college sports, I know media has changed a lot over the years. From your perspective, how do you think the industry has evolved? And do you think it is getting better, or should we start going back to what we've been doing previously?
Well, there's no going back, I'm afraid. I love if the local radio was still big and every radio station was doing their high school games because that's a very important part of my past that I really enjoyed is
Hmm.
the high school aspect before I even got a UNH job. And being the voice early in the morning when kids would if it was a snow day, they had to listen to me to find out they had school. Right? Now
Yeah.
the people are everyone tells you you have no school. All right,
Yeah.
you know. It's evolved quite a bit. Where I am currently in life at this advanced age, I see so many great young broadcasters who now work. I help hire some of these guys because we have so many games on ESPN Plus. Um, I think I was watching about 30 games yesterday, and because they're all the opportunities there. There's a lot more openings, so that's the good news. Bad news is that means the demand isn't there, and it's hard to move up because there's so many games. You have to really be special, really be lucky to move up. So how do you set yourself apart from the others? I think in terms of baseball, a big reason why I had that job was because I was willing to make phone calls in February and sell tickets, and I didn't need to sound like Jason Benetti to get the job. If you're Jason Benetti, congratulations, you're still the one percenter. But those who can use social media to their favor, maybe do a podcast, do quick clips. Social media is such a big part of it, and it's always evolving. It's there's so many out there. How do you set yourself apart? I don't really know, but that's key. Get noticed somehow. Find your way in to any small sliver and to become something big. It's tough to land the huge job early on, but that's one thing I would say. And reps, the more reps you can do, I don't care what level of it is, so people can hear what you sound like, because ultimately talent will win out. If you're somebody who has a presence, if somebody checks your Instagram, you're not putting questionable material up there in your personal life, all that stuff is going to help. But no, as much as I'd love to go back to AM radio being king, Tanisha, it's not happening. So I won't. I think it was somebody who said you have to have a bigger windshield than rear view mirror. So look
Yeah.
ahead. Look ahead.
Okay, so I like that. So you would say that mostly with how Gen Z is working with our digital platforms and our social media, we just need to learn how to work it and help it apply to our jobs.
Yes, chances are, if you know how to put stuff on social quickly and then turn around and report on it, that's going to make you set apart. A lot of people will send me tapes. I call it tapes, but they're real. I was the voice of this team, and I was the voice of that team, and I'm graduating with this GPA. All important. Study hard, kids. But let me hear you. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care if it was, Iowa, no offense, Iowa third grade, but if
Hmm.
it's professional and if it looks good, that's huge as well. There's somebody named Brendan Glasheen, Syracuse guy, who was one of our original, in fact, the original ESPN announcer for UNH. I remember when he was doing minor league baseball in South Carolina, and he was contemplating whether he wanted to come to UNH.
Hmm.
And he goes, well, I have another job on radio at this school. I do more games and it would pay a little more. But what I told him was, you want to be in TV? And he said, yes. I go, well, we're about to invest, even though it doesn't start for another few months, so that you're going to sound good and it's going to look good and be as professional as possible. And I think you have to ask him when he wins in the state of Massachusetts or Maine. He's national now, doing the unrivaled
Oh,
women's
wow.
basketball games. But he took that chance and became polished on our reps. And
Mhm.
I think that was huge because sometimes you're the victim of circumstance. If the camera angle doesn't look good, it may affect the person watching your reel. But
Right.
if your producer's good and your director's good and the broadcast quality, it just props you up as a TV announcer. And we've done that. Tyler Murray, who's now the voice of the New York Knicks radio, he was doing games for us. Cooper Boardman, Joe Weil. These are Red Sox announcers who are on their way up that I'm blessed to have as colleagues because they do a lot of our in-house broadcast production. So I know my time is gone and those guys are here. And it's great because I cheer for all the young ones who are really making a mark now.
Okay, so for many students like myself, or the students that would be watching these interviews in the future that do want to work in sports media someday, what advice would you give someone other than making yourself separate from the group and having the digital platform experience? What's the best advice that you could give someone that is trying or is about to start breaking into the sports broadcasting scene?
Don't wait. Don't wait. Get involved early. As much as I love Syracuse, I've been at UNH a long time, and I use an example from here. There's not a broadcast program at UNH, but a young lady, when she was a senior in high school, so it's May of her senior year, I got an email from her, which was, pretty bold to begin with, a high school student emailing somebody. And all she wanted to do is she was explaining, I'm going to be a freshman at your school. I want to work in sports. I have no idea what, but can I meet with you? So fast forward to First week of school, her freshman year, she sat down and said, I love sports. I played sports. What do you have? And we do a lot of things here in communications and marketing. But as we were chatting, like you and I are right now, our director of productions walked in the office. I was in a meeting, but he didn't care. He was so excited. He had the first ever ESPN mic flag. And he holds up and goes, look at this. We got the ESPN mic flags. And I look at her innocently and go, who knows? Maybe that'll be you holding that one day. Maybe TV's your future. Well, she took that to heart. Her name is Natalie Nori. And this past week, she was hosting the women's NCAA hockey selection show. And
Yeah.
for those who watch the college hockey women's Frozen Four, Natalie Nori will be on ESPN hosting that because when we had that meeting her freshman year, and after I told her all the opportunities she could have by being one, a big fish in a small pond, unlike Syracuse, where there's 100 people vying for that, she goes, well, should I come back next year? I said, no, come back next week. So because she got involved early and learned everything, she had to learn how to edit her own stuff. She learned the control room. There'd be many a frustrating Friday night after a hockey game where she was still here after midnight editing and making sure to perfect it. It's the grind that people don't see. They see her on camera now and how professional. You got to grind. And there was no one here watching her and making her. It came from inside. And so that's what I tell kids. No one's watching you. No one's going to make you better. You have to do it on your own if somebody's going to give you the opportunity to, get coached and get those reps.
I agree. Your commitment to yourself is what matters the most because if you're not committed, then no one else would be committed to your dreams or your passions.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people come in and say, I want to be on TV just like Natalie. I'm like, great.
Mhm.
And then after a few weeks, they realize the work and then they go do
Yeah.
something.
hmm Okay, so I have no any more questions, but I do want to close this out with something fun. It's like building your own broadcasting booth. So I have a couple questions for you, and you just answer with the first thing that comes to your head. Okay, are you ready? Okay,
I,
if you could call a game at any broadcaster, past or present, who would it be?
sorry, if I could call a game with another
With
broadcast,
Yeah, with oh sorry, did my audio cut out? I was saying if you could call a game with any broadcaster, past or present, who would it be?
I would call a game with Phil Rizzuto, New York Yankees. He just seemed to have a good time in the booth, and I just have fun watching a Yankee game with him.
Okay, what is your dream venue to call a game from?
Dream venue would be Madison Square Garden.
And if you could call any sporting event in the world, what would it be other than hockey?
Any sporting event in the world, I think it would be the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl? And then what are the three top items you would bring with you at every game?
Lozenges, something for your throat, a big bottle of water, and the third thing, boy, I guess I was gonna say binoculars. It depends on the sport. You don't need that at basketball. What's the third thing you have to have in front of you? I guess a laptop, something that you can connect to the world. When you have to
Okay.
look something up really quickly or know you want to have knowledge at your fingertips. And the phone might be too small for my eyes.
Okay. You're the first person that's actually said a different response. A lot of times they always say like their phone, like a notepad and like water or a mic. So I actually do appreciate those answers. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
They're probably right. A microphone will be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mike. This was a great experience, and I really appreciate you talking to me and spending time with me today. Thank you. Do you have anything else you wanted to share?
I just wanted to thank you, thank the NSMA. It is always an honor. Dave Gorin, who I first met the year he was the North Carolina Sportscaster of the Year, and at the time he was in a career crossroads to see what he's done with what was the NSSA and make it this organization with young talents like yourself. Imposter syndrome is right. I don't deserve any of these accolades, but thank you and thank the organization for this great honor.
Well, thank you, and we think it's very well deserved.